Now this is the video for you if you enjoy poking around English country churches and you like a bit of a flower festival, and if that's what you enjoy watching, don't forget to check out my playlist for flower festivals. I'll leave a link to that in the description underneath this video. And while we're at it, why don't you subscribe to my channel? You'll find the big red button next to the description of the video, and that means once you've subscribed to my channel you don't need to pay anything. That next time you open the YouTube app, whether that be on your phone, your tablet, your laptop, you will see my next video pop up ready and waiting for you. Welcome to Appledore Flower Festival, a hive of community activity, and we were welcomed in the church porch by King Charles III. Look at that magnificent robe with its fur trim. These are paper flowers made actually from textured kitchen roll. Look at the orb. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. Here's a close-up of the paper roses made using the same technique as was fashionable a few years ago for tissue paper pom-poms, and the orb, a spray painted polystyrene bowl with jewels added. And talking about jewels, here's the sceptre. Such attention to detail. The theme of this flower festival was God Save the King, and as you can see it was very widely interpreted. And what caught my eye about this arrangement, which happened to have been sponsored by Hull Park, which is where I filmed the video of the Midsummer Fair. I'll leave a link to that in the description underneath the video, but you can see that rather eye-catchingly the arrangement has caught up on the blues and oranges that reflect the flash of colour of the kingfisher as it goes about its daily life on the banks of the river. How many plants there can you name? Do you see the crown poking out on this next arrangement? Now what do you reckon the theme is here? There's the blue. Can you see the blue allium that's been dyed? Almost like a thistle-like quality to it. Lovely blue hydrangea, some white ammi major, which looks like cow parsley. And as we move across, you've got it. It's a witch's cauldron. This very large display is interpreting Macbeth. It always amazes me that at church flower festivals every single space is used, and on this narrow windowsill is a display representing King Louis XIV of France, known as the Sun King. So it features sunflowers, yellow roses, and then some of the flowers have been accentuated with a little bit of glitter, just to make the whole arrangement sparkle. And from France we go to the nursery rhyme of old King Cole, who was a merry old soul. And there his fiddle, and there his bowl and his pipe. I expect this bowl was created using a mixing bowl as a mould, turned over with a sheet of cling film over it, and then leaves glued on top. And once it was dried, it was turned out to create that lovely, wonderful shape. And here in front of the altar is the King of Heaven, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost. A classic flower arranger's arrangement, really striking pedestal in cool greens and whites, with a little bit of extra detail with the gold spray painted seed pods. Now this is my favourite arrangement, King James I. He made the Church of England religion, the religion of the whole country, and that's what led to the famous gunpowder plot, which we celebrate or mark here in the UK with bonfire night on the 5th of November. But just look at this simplicity, the King James Bible, the pair of gloves with little crochet trim, the beautiful blush dahlias, and that crown. sitting on the plinth of what presumably is another look-alike Bible. And next to it is such a beautiful but simple flower arrangement with pristine roses which would have come from the wholesaler, and then a cloud of pink and white cosmos up above, and the gunpowder plot, well, there's the barrel, and then there's a trail of dynamite, which I'm guessing is depicted, I think it was coffee grounds actually, and then it leads across the front of the altar, and then boom, it explodes into a dahlia. From the excitement of explosions, we turn the corner to come to the cool serenity of Tutankhamun with his death mask in the striking gold and blue, and that blue has been picked up here with the blue hydrangeas, and you can see they've been sprayed with water to keep them fresh throughout the whole weekend at the flower festival. And the little poppy heads here with just a spritz of gold on them. This arrangement was absolutely gorgeous, and actually we'll see another depiction of Tutankhamun at the last flower festival I visited at the weekend, so make sure you watch on to the end of the video. And in contrast to the cool blues, on the windowsill it's the arid desert with the pyramids and the desert succulents. And here we have a close-up view of Tutankhamun, looking at the blues of the agapanthus, the two balls of the blue thistle, the echinops, and a stem of delphinium. Such an interesting arrangement to look at. As we looked at this arrangement, there was a real live butterfly caught up in the petticoats of this bride's dress. And can you guess which king? Yes, it's King Henry VIII. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Yes, it's a blackbird, but can you guess the children's nursery rhyme? Sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 420 blackbirds baked in a pie. And then it goes on about being what a dainty dish to set before the king. And talking about dainty dishes being set before the king, it was time for a spot of lunch, always another high point at any church flower festival. And on the windowsill behind the counter was a depiction of the Boston Tea Party. What was doubly interesting at this flower festival were the little nuggets of history we were reminded about, and it was King Charles I who was on the throne when the Great Fire of London broke out in 1666, and he was also on the throne when the first pineapple was grown in the country. And if you're squeamish, you might want to look away as we remember the Great Plague in 1665. And there on top of the pillar is the crown of Charles II. And look out for another rat, a knitted one, climbing up into this arrangement at the base of the pillar. And a reminder of the story of the current King and Queen Camilla. And Camilla is reputed to be related to Nell Gwyn, who Charles II had an affair with. I thought this arrangement was utterly charming. It was King Midas, where everything he touched turned to gold. To be honest, I was totally bemused by this next piece until my friend called me over and said it was representing King Harold, who was famously killed by an arrow to his eye So this gloopy mess inside those dahlias and those arrows there are making a very clever display. Check out those fern eyelashes. You'll have to let me know in the comments what you think about this display. Can you see how the dahlias have been spray painted white to represent the white of the eye, and then the centre area in black to represent the blood? Now I've told you that it's King Harold's eye. It does make more sense when viewed from a distance. And from the gore of battle, let's stop off for a Burger King. I thought this exhibit was great fun. Our next stop is St Mary the Virgin Church in Rolvenden, here in Kent. This was a beautiful flower festival depicting the works of Shakespeare. There were a fabulous pair of flower arrangements in the aisle as you went into the church. This one is themed in blue with a bottle of poison. Can you guess which Shakespearean play it's depicting? I love the dark masculine colours. And while I leave you thinking about that, how about we move over to Macbeth and the Witch's Cauldron, a very atmospheric display. I love the use of seasonal plant material in this display. The fluffy seed heads of the wild clematis and the blackberries. It's just superbly put together. And did you notice the witch's hat? And from the Witches of Macbeth, we move on to the sublime fairy song. Isn't this display just fabulous? With the little sleeping fairy, her crown of pink. The arrangement on the altar depicts the Son of York, and can you see that beautiful glow in the centre, which picks up on the colouring of the stained glass window, lovely contrasting colours of the yellow and blue. The little pamphlet that I picked up to guide me through this flower festival tells me that this arrangement depicts Sonnet 18, which I'm not familiar with, but just look at those lovely soft summer colours, the pinks and the mauves and the creams. I can see gladioli, stocks. It's just absolutely beautiful. A lovely display of summertime. There was a little raised seating area in the church, which I guess in times of yore was reserved for the lord of the manor. And from this vantage point, I looked down on this display, which was called Salad Days, and that always reminds me of my mum and dad, who I think shortly after they got engaged went to see the production of Salad Days, the musical, and it was certainly the soundtrack of our childhood, and I can sing some of the songs off by heart all these years later. But the lovely, cool whites and greens in this lovely, natural, dappled sunlight. This next exhibit is called The Man That Hath No Music, from The Merchant of Venice. The bottom of the arrangement was very sombre and dark, but not boring. There was a fabulous display of contrasting textures, beautiful to look at, and then above this smack of bright colour. The yellows, the oranges, the reds. We've got dahlias, goldenrod or solidago, gladioli. A very classy arrangement in a very quiet part of the church. And then we move on to the Tempest, an arrangement of two parts, the calms of the whites, and then the turmoil of the purples. Beautifully executed arrangement with such fine plant material. Do you see the zinnias, the verbena? I think I spot cosmos, some dark dahlias. Give me such great ideas for things to plant in my garden.
Yes, and they're all really lovely, aren't they? Very beautiful. Very competent flower arrangers.
Our next stop is A Midsummer's Night Dream. And doesn't this arrangement look totally dreamy? I especially like the way it catches the natural light coming in through the church windows. And here we are at Twelfth Night. Strikingly at first, I notice the oranges, the whites and the greens, and then as we get closer, look out for the pink roses and the pink tinged hydrangeas. This is a beautifully put together flower arrangement. And right at the tip, you'll see the orange underside of a magnolia leaf, just finishing off the arrangement perfectly. And then we're back at the front of the church. And you guessed it, didn't you? That pair of arrangements either side of the aisle. It's Romeo and Juliet. And from the blues of Romeo, we move across the aisle to the pinks of Juliet. You'll probably notice the stargazer lilies first. But what about the little pink asters alongside? The Astrantia, Alstroemeria. I really enjoyed my first time visit to Rolvenden Church. Now let's move on to the hustle and bustle of Tenterden High Street and St Mildred's Church. If you watched my video last time round, you would have seen that we went up the church tower here in St Mildred's, and then we got waylaid on the way by the Flower Rangers corner in front of this beautiful stained glass window. I'll make sure I leave a link to that video in the notes under this one. What was lovely about this flower festival was each of the arrangements were made in memory of one of the congregation of the church. So again, a lovely community atmosphere and a very high quality standard of flower arranging. So I'll let you have a look around the church with me and put on some music so you can enjoy looking at these arrangements in peace. But don't forget to watch on to the end of the video and I'll take you to another beautiful English country church in Chollock. As you can see, I had a busy Saturday, so we took Sunday off and on Bank Holiday Monday headed out to Chollock, about a 20-minute drive from home. If you're a member of my special YouTube Flower Club group, you might remember this walk. It formed part of the bonus footage I showed you when I toured this church during the Chollock Open Gardens event. It has the most spectacular murals. So if you'd like to access more additional perks like this, including my free monthly flower arranging class, all you have to do is click the link in the description underneath the video or that big red join button, and YouTube will guide you through the rest. This flower festival had an open theme based around the last 100 years, and it was left to each of the exhibitors to decide what they wanted to portray in their displays. So here we have a local florist who's done a very fine depiction of Mickey Mouse. I think it must be 100 years since the Mickey Mouse Club was formed. And take a look at this very striking arrangement in greens with the glossy anthuriums and the pock-marked aspidistra leaves, the little circular cutouts reflecting the circular nature of the wheels of the car, the steering wheels, and a little bit of contrast there with the shaggy green chrysanthemum blooms. So it's really interesting when you go to flower festivals, there's all sorts of different styles of flower arranging. From memory, I think this next exhibit was made by the WI. It depicts the 100 years ending in Charles's coronation. So what really intrigues me are all the little vintage finds, the things that I'm looking out for when I go out to the charity shops. And if you love visiting charity shops too, do make sure you check out the playlist where I share my latest thrift hauls. I'll leave a link to that in the description underneath the video. So we've got the yellow teacup and saucer, the beryl range, which was found in village halls and schools up and down the country. Look at the teapot cosy here with a little lady poking through at the top, and I think there's a little exhibit, a magazine cutout, yes here it is, which explains a little bit about these crinoline lady tea cosies. I wonder whether you had one, or you can remember your mum or granny having one. Let me know in the comments. What I loved about this exhibit was a balance of flower arranging, but the information that was shared and the amount of time it must have taken the ladies of the WI to put this display together, and a little bit of a reminder of yesteryear. I particularly like these illustrations from the old magazines, with father sitting down reading his newspaper and mother in the kitchen with her pinny on. Hopefully times have changed a little bit now. More pretty teacups. Do you remember that display I showed you in, I think it was Biddenden Church? So do make sure you look for my playlist called Church Flower Festivals. I'll leave a link to it in the description underneath this video. And here we have the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, with those regal red, white and blue flowers there in the commemorative mug. And here's a pattern I remember from my mum and dad, the teacup and saucer there, and I featured that previously in the thrift haul when I visited Petticoat Lane in Ramsgate. And again, I'll leave my thrift haul playlist in the link in the description. And that biscuit barrel, although we didn't have a biscuit barrel, my mum and dad had exactly the same pattern for tea and sugar. And Cath Kidston mugs. That puts me in mind to my visit to the potteries. So if you haven't seen them already, do check out my videos from the Wedgford factory and also the Burley factory at Burslem. I'm always interested in the mechanics and flower displays. So here we got a metal plinth with a plastic pot and oasis inside. And then off to the side here, I believe that the large pedestal arrangement was depicting, I think, a Ukrainian hymn. I think there's a huge star in the top. I do wish I hadn't lost my programme, because I'd be able to tell you a little bit more about it. Oh, here we are, Carol of the Bells. And this clever arrangement is depicting Psalm 100. all people that on earth do dwell. How clever is that, with the globe up on the top? And behind, you might just get a glimpse of some of the murals on the church walls. I do love a wedding, and here we have 100 years of weddings in the parish. Particularly interested in the fashions of the time, including the different styles of flower arranging. I wonder whether you can spot something that harks back to your own wedding dress. Let me know in the comments, what year did you get married? And what did your wedding bouquet look like? I do hope you've enjoyed spending some time with me as I've been visiting those 4 flower festivals, which were all within about half an hour's drive of my home. Let me know in the comments whether you've been particularly inspired, whether it's by the name of the exhibit or the overall title of the flower festival, or perhaps you saw a beautiful flower combination or some techniques that you want to incorporate in your next arrangement. And if you have been inspired by flower festivals in your area, why don't you post some photographs in my Facebook group? All you need to do is search Flower Start World in Facebook, or click the link in the description underneath this video. And talking about clicking links, have you thought about joining my YouTube membership group? You'll find the join button next to the subscribe button underneath this video, and there's also a link that you can click as well in the description of the video. Lots of perks in joining the group, including access to my free monthly flower arranging class. Well, that's all for me for now, and I'll see you again next time.